prophecy foretold of their coming. They have come and gone, and their legacy lives on. In the lives of our mothers, in the lives of our fathers, in the lives of our sisters, in the lives of our brothers, in our own lives, society. History repeats itself again and again. And things from the past have now returned with more force than when they first began. A nation without their roots is like a tree without roots. Without roots there can be no tree. Without roots there can be no branches. Without roots there can be no leaves, no flowers, and no fruit. Roots bring forth life. But some roots have become stricken and bring forth life, breeds wickedness, blasphemous intentions, and iniquity. Traveling deeper and deeper to the lowest depths of hell.
My name is Malchus Messiah Garvey. For those of you who don't know who I am, it is time for you to begin to know. A people without the knowledge of their past is like a tree without roots. My story, your story, our story. It's all been recorded since the beginning of time. By telling these stories, we begin to unravel the mysteries of our collective past, along with knowing where we are now. And through this, we begin to chart a course for our future. Let me get back to that in a moment, but first let me tell you a few things about myself. I was born August 17, 1887 on the island of Jamaica. I am the son of Malchus Messiah Garvey Sr. and Sarah Jane Richards. I spent most of my childhood on St. Anne's Parish on the island of Jamaica, where I became a preacher. Early on in life, I learned that though I believe that all people were God's creation, others did not see it quite that way. Furthermore, they wanted you, me, us to see things the way they saw things. This was not right. And it was because of this that in 1914, I started the Universal Negro Movement Association. This is where the story begins. Begins. Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in spirits? I do. I believe in the spirits of my ancestors. I also believe in the spirits of yours. Many spirits live on. Some are for good. Many are for evil. Perhaps some of you understand what I'm saying. Some of you may not. But by the end of this story, you will begin to know what I'm speaking of. I shall return, but first let me leave you with something I wrote which was published June 6, 1925, while I was in the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary. It is still available in many of the bookstores. If others laugh at you, return the laughter to them. If they mimic you, return the compliment with equal force. They have no more right to dishonor, disrespect, and disregard your manhood than you have in dealing with them. Honor them when they honor you. Disrespect and disregard them when they violently treat you. Their arrogance is but skin deep, and it is assumption that has no foundations in morals or in law. They have sprung from the same family tree of obscurity as we have. Their history was as rooted in its primitiveness as ours. Their ancestors ran wild, lived in caves and in the branches of trees like monkeys as ours. They made human sacrifices, ate the flesh of their own dead, and the raw meat of the wild beasts for centuries, even as they accused us of doing. Their cannibalism was more prolonged than ours. When we were embracing the arts and sciences on the bank of the Nile, they were still running naked and sleeping in holes with rats, bats, and other insects and animals after we had already unfathomed the mystery of the stars and reduced the heavenly constellations to minute and regular calculus. They were still backwoodsmen, living in ignorance and blatant darkness.
My name is John Edgar Hoover. I was born New Year's Day, 1895. And on that first day of that fateful year, a new era for America was born. I had served 48 years as director of the FBI, under 8 presidents, 19 attorneys general. They all sought out my advice concerning domestic security, and I rarely, if ever, answered to my so-called supervisors. In those years, I would have confidential files and documents on anything or anyone I deemed important. For only my views and opinions count anyways. And only I would choose who could view these. There's something very addictive about a secret. Even from the beginning, I knew I'd go far. If I had a notion, I would have gone further. But I had as much or more power than anyone on Capitol Hill. So I was satisfied with my position. The bureau I inherited was full of corruption and incompetence. So I quickly weeded out those agents that did not meet my high standards. My control of the bureau would be absolute. To get back in the public's good graces quickly, I went after high-profile people and cases, but only those that I was sure to come out on top in. Examples: John Dillinger, his escapades and rise to fame embarrassed me greatly, but my agents shot him down, and his death mask now sits in my office. My agents also got the majority of that incest-ridden gang of mob barkers. But even with these and many, many more glories, an ignorant Senate subcommittee questioned my ability and competence to lead the Bureau. They also stressed that I never personally made an arrest. So to offset this negative publicity, I went after public enemy number 1 and arrested him myself. Alvin Karpus, last member of the Barker gang at large. I'd use the most powerful mediums at my disposal: television, radio, newspapers. I use these to educate the masses about the glory and vigilance my bureau provided them. I'd also use these same mediums to expose the vile threat that the communists, anarchists, and minority suffrage groups pose to the American way of life. Early on in my career, I went after that vixen slut, queen of the communists, Red Emma Goldman. Her thinking was a major threat to the direction I was taking this country. She once said, "Break your mental fetters," says anarchism to man, "for not until you think or judge for yourself will you get rid of the dominion of darkness, the greatest obstacle to all progress." If lectures on such thinking were not stopped quickly, it would cause an eternal rebellion against authority. I could not allow that. She had to take the fall. Also, that nigger, Marcus Garvey, and his rhetoric to educate the masses. His people do not have the intelligence or perseverance to rise in society. They should be happy with their place as servants. Colored people are quite ignorant, mostly uneducated, and I doubt they'd seek an education if they had the opportunity. Although Marcus Garvey had not yet broken any federal law to allow him to be deported, I had my agents search endlessly to find a fraud case on his promotion of a steamship line. I thought maybe that would give me the ammunition to get him out of the country. I'd spent years of my life dedicated to this. I'd go to the ends of the earth to see him sentenced, imprisoned, and finally deported, whatever it took. Well, as you know, I'm a very busy man. I'll return to address you later if I find the time.
Do you remember the days of slavery?
For those of you who do not know me, my name is
Do
Emma
you
Goldman.
remember the days of
Many of you do not know me because much of our common history is hidden. There are those who do not want you to know who I am. I arrived on the shores of this country August 15th, 1889, when I was 20 years old. I arrived and worked as a factory worker and experienced, well, how many of you know? Long hours, treated like numbers rather than humans. It's the same old bullshit they've tried for generations, and well, I probably don't have to say it, but I'm Red Emma, as Mr. Hoover would put it. And I'm going to say it anyway. Did you ever notice that despite the long hours and inhumane treatment, the boss gets richer and richer, and we still have a hard time putting food on the table? Well, okay. I arrived on the shores of this country because I share the same dream that many of you share, freedom. However, I chose to take that dream farther than many of you have or may ever choose to, and what a shame about that, I might add. I have chosen to live my life as an embodiment of the ideals that I believe in. I arrived because I had a vision of a free world, of a world free from governments, free from corporate structures that would make lots of money for the few and slaves of the masses. Down with bosses, no more bosses. Down with free from churches that lie and distort.
Got that right? Preach it, sister!
Thank you, Mr. Garvey. Free from churches that oppress and suppress us, and free from unnatural contracts that would bind our bodies and our spirits. Yes, I believe that when we free ourselves from the chains that bind, we can become a people and a world that is free to express the beauty that is here amongst us. I call it anarchy. No, I don't mean chaos. For I believe that through cooperation, that obscene word that seems to fly in the face of capitalism and white male domination, that the individual can become a true human being. Do me a favor tonight, when you go home. Tell your friends that weren't here tonight to turn the television off. And to tell certain people, you'll know who they are, that they've been too influenced by the Fox television network and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Wake up and live!
For you.
Preach it!
I believe in love and sex. What I mean is, love is the greatest human emotion. And if I so choose, I should be able to share that love with whoever chooses to share it with me. And that includes my body. Oh, you know, no matter what has happened, there's still love. And I've learned much from the people that I have loved. Regardless of the situations, and once the television is off and there's time to read, find out about some of my situations in my autobiography, Living My Life. It's in your bookstores. My problem is that letting go or having to let go of someone is not as easy as it seems. I guess that's part of the tragedy and beauty of being human. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Johann Most, Hippolyte Havel, Ebert. Thank you, Dr. Ben Reitman. Even if I was one of the many in your eyes and you're lying, well, at least you said you were a liar. And a good fuck you were too, I might add. Did you ever notice that the people least at ease with their sexuality are the meanest? Anyhow, I believe in the dance. And thanks to all of you who are keeping it alive with the t-shirts. If I can't dance, I don't want to be part of any revolution. I want to dance. And maybe by dancing, I can free others to dance as well. Revolution. It begins in the mind. It begins in the body. It begins in the workplace, and it begins in the systems that great spirit Bob Marley once said, "Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery." I believe that. See you a little later.
This is the gang that is played all around, which is sure one day to be traced from now. The world has gone mad in a money craze, leaving the poor man in the days. There must be war reorganization to save the world from exploitation. The prize of greater democracy, the salvation from men's democracy.
Well, as you can see, I found the time to grace you people with my presence again. Here to tell you a little bit about myself. What you know about me, enough to know about my friends and enemies. I can truly say I've only had one real friend. Clyde Tolson. Well, maybe we were a little more than friends. But he was my compatriot and true confidant. He'd stick by me through thick and thin, regardless of what I've done or who I've done it to. Clyde, we did have some good times. I can say I've only had one friend, but I've had many acquaintances, one of which was Harry Anslinger. He tried to overshadow my greatness by taking all the credit to have marijuana legalized. But I could forgive him. He did the right thing. He also used to entertain me with stories of coloreds with big lips, seducing white women with music and marijuana. He humored me. He also led the fight to have marijuana outlawed in 1937. He used the argument that it was the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind. And only a short 5 years later, in 1942, he used the argument that it made our fighting men overseas too passive to win the war. The American public never caught this contradiction. I guess they'll believe anything you shove down their throats. Another acquaintance that I grew to like, last president I've served with, Richard Nixon, was a very paranoid man, but he gave me the proper respect I so greatly deserved. So I helped him spread his propaganda and find leaks in his own staff. I did this by having members of his staff and members of the press under constant surveillance and tapping their phones. But this became too risky, so I had to distance myself and the Bureau from it. I always have to watch your own back. Yeah, I've had a few acquaintances, but a man in my powerful position accumulates a great number of enemies. Not all enemies were individuals. Some were groups, like the Workers' Alliance of the early 1900s to the Weathermen of the 1960s. I consider each member of these groups and the groups themselves to be my great enemy, and I'd do anything to have them destroyed. Not all of my enemies were that obvious. Like that man-hating lesbian Eleanor Roosevelt, she said I spent too much time chasing communists and not enough time hunting Nazis. So I had to shut her up with statistics. Unfortunately, I had to take some actions against Nazi parties within our borders. But along with Marcus Garvey, Emma Goldman early on in my career, my greatest enemy was Martin Luther King. My agents accumulated volumes of evidence on that uppity tomcat. That nigger should have never won the Nobel Peace Prize, let alone Time Magazine's Man of the Year in 1963. They must have dug very deep in the trash for that one. What amazed me even more, the Pope gave that fucking nigger an audience. That had to embarrass the whole church system. But with all the evidence I manufactured against him, his popularity grew and grew. This was very frustrating. But then again, I don't have to worry about him any longer, do I? But before disposing of King, I had to deal with some of those nigger hate groups, like the NAACP and the Black Panther Party. I'd instruct my agents and local police departments to do anything to destroy them completely. Not only their members, but their supporters. Like that nigger-loving actress, Jean Seabird. That weak-minded whore could not take the gossip I leaked to the press about her. She killed herself with an overdose of sleeping pills. A good riddance. She deserved every hardship and torment I provided her. It's good to make examples of those people who cross the line, to show the others this will not be tolerated. One other person I could say I did like was Jack Warner, president of Warner Broadcasting. He helped me create my TV series and a movie to help educate the masses. I grew to like him. I figure the average person in America spends 70 hours in front of the television. I might as well utilize it to my benefit. Well, as I said earlier, I'm a very busy man. But I'm sure you're all grateful for the limited time I was allowed to spend with you. You're welcome.
Babylon's dream is a nightmare. Have caution and pay serious attention. The present situation is a horror. are evil. This dream may frighten you. Perhaps you feel cold sweat. This dream has come to set the record straight. Bring light to the darkness. Tell the truth about the lies that we're supposed to believe.
John Edgar Hoover. So what are you doing here amongst such subversive company?
Well, there are many aspects about my personality and life that you've never been aware of. If you knew about them, you might even come to like me.
Skeletons in the closet?
Well, you might even think I was a fun guy.
Duck got skeleton in hidden closet and vampire too. Sucking the blood of our people every day. They can't pay the teachers. They don't pay the nurses. We see illiterate children and tombstones hearses.
Some of my ancestors said the spirits hover about the dream. Amongst the crowd here tonight, I sense many a good spirit. There's also at least the one evil.
I am a fun guy.
You're about as fun as a pig.
Hey, wait a minute.
Pay is for horses, Ed.
This is a dream, correct? Just relax and flow with it. Come on, I know all you Rastafarians like this. Let's share this reefer. Get high. Oh yeah, Garvey, my brother.
Brotherhood, let me set the record straight for you and for you. Though many of the Rastafarians view me as some kind of prophet, I never embraced the Rastafarian movement as a whole. I spoke of symbols and of religion to uplift the black man and the woman. I never claimed to be Rasta. I even went as far as distancing myself from them at UNIK conferences. That's the Universal Negro Improvement Association. In case you have forgotten, read it yourself. Educate yourself.
I guess that means turning the television off.
Speaking of television, did you happen to catch that show I helped create a few years ago? The FBI series? Starring Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.? I never miss an episode.
Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. You mean that fine Christian gentleman, father of Stephanie, and supporter of Ronald Reagan?
Ronald Wilson Reagan. 6-letter to every word. Sick on the brain. The figurehead leader of the shitstim. 666.
Mark of the beast.
As well as a contributor to those so-called Christian groups, the ones that think that all the problems began with Eve.
Lies and distortions.
TV, no control my mind. Shitstones, no control my mind. Reagan, no control my mind. FBI,
No control of my mind.
and don't let anyone, no man, no woman, no government, no church, try to control your mind, body, or spirit. Do you understand?
As well as the Rastafarians. I also had a few harsh words to speak concerning that man I know you looked up to as some kind of prophet. Haile Selassie. Of course, it might be said that I must be hard on some of those I love most dearly. Time does not allow me to speak on my details with Rastafarians or Selassie, however.
It's all been recorded. Educate yourselves. Turn the television off. Wake up and live.
Live.
Visit the library.
Live.
Go to your bookstores.
Live.
Turn the television off. Consider
Live.
your friends and neighbors.
Live.
One love, one people, one destiny.
I helped make Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. a star on the ABC television network.
Corporate buys, corporate lies. Shall there be freedom from liberal thought? No, the white man has all agencies bought. Press, pulpit, law, and all other things. Hence our public opinion. He reigns king. This is an indisputable glaring fact. You might find out with a little chat. College tutors and presidents are paid. So that in universities, schemes are laid.
Come on, Marcus. Help me finish this joint. I'm getting high. Really high.
So, Ed, had any loving lately?
Well,
Come on. You can tell us you're in subversive company, remember? You can be free.
well,
By the way, Ed, where's Clyde?
Clyde who?
Oh, you don't have to be that way with us now, Ed. We may be your friends in a dream. Reality might be your nightmare. Clyde Tolson. fancy dress you were wearing the other night? It was cute, kind of sexy. Maybe one day I can visit you in the line, and we can exchange clothes. I think that...
Wait a minute, how'd you find out?
Oh, Ed, it says even in your good book, what's done in darkness does come to light.
Can I leave this dream now?
No. Besides, you never asked me if I wanted to get in it. I don't. But for yourself, take one long, last, deep hit off of that sleep. Close your eyes. Relax your body. Relax. And let all of your fantasies come forward. Oh yes, Ed, and one last thing. Remember Harvey Milk.
What? Who?
Listen to me, Ed. Really, I'll never be a supporter of American government.
You devil, this is America!
Calm down, Ed. This is just a dream, remember? And besides, you're really, really stoned.
This Harvey Milk.
He was way ahead of your time. You should learn about him.
Maybe some of my agents have a file.
I'm not talking about that. And if you do, you should burn it, like you should all of them. But Ed, you see, Harvey Milk was an elected official, but unlike you, Ed, Harvey didn't stay in the closet. I'm no fan of elected officials, but Ed, if you had 1/4 of Harvey's strength and power, we all might be a little more human today.
You are a menace to the United States of America, leader of the free world.
Poor as we are in democracy, how can we give of it to the world? A democracy conceived in the military servitude of the masses, in their economic enslavement, is not a democracy at all. It is despotism, the cumulative result of a chain of abuses which, according to that dangerous document, the Declaration of Independence, the people have a right to overthrow.
Sometimes dreams do become nightmares.
Good evening. I'm Susan Masoni, and now for our top story. Today, official Washington is taking time to honor the man that for nearly 4 decades presided over the most powerful law enforcement organization in the country, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Congressmen, senators, as well as high commerce leaders were lavish in the praises for the man considered by many as the most influential in Washington. President Nixon, in his remarks, spoke of J. Edgar Hoover as a decent and moral man whose standards were the highest he personally has ever known. Nixon said in a statement released by his press secretary today, "Our domestic enemies had no greater man to fear, and one can only speculate where this country would be without his leadership." Nixon ordered all flags at federal buildings to be flown at half-staff and to remain so for 30 days. Nixon stated that the search would begin immediately for a successor. No names have immediately surfaced, however.
Yes, can't say I haven't left
Do
my
you know
mark.
that we here at
My bureau's intact.
will give you
My agents are the finest in the world.
For Mr. Hoover. Now, it is believed that the Nixon administration wants him a successor as quickly
Wow,
as
look,
possible.
there's Bob Hope. And Ebert Zimbalist Jr.
But I'd like to talk about something different for a moment.
Wonder if Clyde's watching.
Let's look back
What
at
if I
the
call
life
down to it?
and legacy of
Hey,
John
Clyde. Oh,
Edgar
no,
Hoover.
not again.
John Edgar Hoover.
Do you believe in spirits now?
Now, before
As I said in the beginning, there will be spirits and there are evil
in
spirits.
Washington, who's
Many
standing
times
by
these
right
spirits
now,
work.
has reviewed
However,
whispers on the
prophecy did not say that good eventually triumphs over evil. I must believe that. The stone that the builders refused does become the
Bob,
chief.
what I'd like to ask you,
I do think that
how
good
do
will
you
be
feel
united.
that Mr. Hoover's death is going to affect the nation?
Hell, battles do happen
Or
though.
better yet,
Mr. John Edgar
how do you
Hoover,
feel that
look at me.
Hoover's death
Look
is
at
going
me
to affect
now.
this country as a whole? Bob? Bob, are you there? I'm not getting a very good connection. We'll go back to Bob in just a few moments. Yes! Let's unravel the life and legacy of John Edgar Hoover. The man given prime responsibility for upholding the law leaves us with a legacy of political and social oppression that, as this 20th century comes to a close, can only be compared to the KGB of Stalin's Russia.
What? I did nothing but uphold the Constitution of the United
For
States of
example.
America. Did you ever read it, Garvey?
Under Hoover's FBI, agents regularly harassed, threatened, and even killed those considered political dissidents.
Did you ever recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Also,
to the republic for
under
which it
Hoover's
stands,
FBI,
one nation,
the
under
United
God,
States
indivisible,
stepped up and
with
supported
liberty and
incarcerating
justice for all.
political prisoners.
Do you know that, Garvey?
No, I don't know that. Particularly that portion of liberty
And
for
on
all.
that case, I'd like to talk about a particular case, and that is the case of Leonard
Who the
Peltier.
hell's Peltier?
It's a wonder you don't know, but then again, it's perfectly understandable why you don't. After all, you're dead.
Right now, Hoover is speaking with Mr. Marcus Garvey in what appears to be not an animated conversation regarding the Peltier case. Leonard Peltier is the American Indian Movement activist presently framed for the murder of an FBI agent in Hunter, South Dakota. Let's try to get closer.
Free Leonard Hoover.
Excuse me for a moment, if I may. I'd like to ask Mr. Hoover a few questions.
My agents have done well at holding my legacy. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Peltier stands accused of breaking the law.
Yes. But what I believe Mr. Garvey is perhaps saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the history of your bureau seems to indicate racism, sexism, corrupt goings-on.
In J. Edgar Hoover's own book, Loving One's Own People, if they are not Anglo or if they are not male.
I believe I know what you're about to say. Now, who else can attest to this?
My wife, Amy Jobs Garvey, for one, and Emma going for another, then in his eyes you're a public enemy. If he can't find a law to entrap you with, this setup are created to create an appearance of him breaking the law or you.
Is this true, Mr.
Wait a minute, I object to this line of questioning.
Mr.
I have no further comment.
Are you afraid to answer my question?
Look at me now! Hold on, everyone, for a moment. Maybe in order to get Mr. Hoover to respond, perhaps it is best we speak in a language that he more clearly understands. Okay, Mr. Hoover, we're on prime time. Look at me now. We're on TV. Jeopardy.
The category is history. The answer is for $100. Selma, Alabama, 1965. The question, Mr. Hoover, is...
No comment.
Mr. Garvey?
Where and when did the murder of Viola Liuzzo take place?
That's right! Viola Liuzzo, the white Detroit housewife and someone to assist with black voter registration drive, shot to death by the Ku Klux Klan with an FBI in the vehicle at the
FBI and the Ku Klux Klan. What do you make of that? Look at me now!
I thought this was a black and white television.
No, this is all live and in living color. But now it's time for a commercial break.
Oh, how do you spell relief? COINTELPRO.
COINTELPRO? My
Yes.
counterintelligence program?
Yes! That legal intelligence organization set up by the FBI to disrupt groups like the American Indian Movement, also used in the case of Fred Hampton, Black Panther leader, killed by Chicago police in 1960. Fast and easy relief. But now it's time for Unsolved Mysteries.
Memphis, Tennessee, April 1968. Why is it that certain security measures assigned to protect Dr. Martin Luther King were mysteriously removed shortly before his assassination? And how is it that a barely literate, run-of-the-mill, small-time criminal has the cash and the know-how to obtain passports, aliases, and the wherewithal to leave the country? I speak of James Earl Ray, the man accused of killing Dr. King. Not one of your favorite people.
Look at me now.
I'm dealing with my own death.
Look at me now. Ancient prophecy spoke of the glow of your demise, as well as the downfall of your whole Babylon system. It's too bad. All the knowledge and wisdom was there for you if you had chosen to seek it. Maybe your story would have ended differently. You could have educated yourself. Oh yeah, and one last thing. John would never give the power to a bald head. Time alone and time will tell. Think you're in heaven? I won't be seeing you later. One love, one people, one destiny. All colors of the rainbow. Let us unite.
I am living in hell.
In an earlier time and in an earlier era, this story would have ended with the words, "And that's the way it is." Yet another would have said, "And so it goes." They were who they were. This is the end of this story. And I'd like to leave you with these words. Educate yourselves.